Welcome back. It's been a few weeks since I filmed anything. Today we are going to be talking about fragrances that smell like really luxe skincare or body products. Why would you want a perfume that smells like a skincare product? Well, I guess for those days where you don't necessarily want to smell like perfume, but you want to retain that clean, fresh feeling of having just applied your skincare or just had a shower. Those two things usually go hand in hand, let's face it. For me, I really like having a perfume that fills that gap for me, that lasts a bit longer than maybe the scent of the skincare product would, and therefore I can just feel a bit fresh and clean throughout the day. Having said that, if you have watched my channel for a little bit, you probably would already be aware that I'm not a huge fan of smelling like laundry detergent necessarily. There is a place for that in my wardrobe for sure, but that is pretty minimal when compared to other perfumes or perfume categories that I have, or scent categories that I have in my perfume wardrobe. Now, before we get started, you will have noticed something a little bit different perhaps, and that is that I now have braces. I had anticipated that I would have uploaded a vlog style video by this stage and that this would have already been sort of talked through, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I have filmed a few little clips here and there, but I hadn't really filmed enough over the last couple of weeks to really cobble together a full video. So for that I apologize. So if I am lisping, then that is why. I'm still learning how to speak. It has been 3 weeks now, and I had anticipated that I would have gotten over this hump of not being used to having this thing in my mouth, but the adjustment period is taking a little bit longer than I had anticipated. So please bear with me. I will try to speak as clearly as I can. On that note, let's get into the video because I have a few fragrances to get through today. Now, this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been slowly kind of getting my head around some fragrances in my wardrobe that I think meet this category. And I have worn all of these perfumes on skin. I will be maybe spritzing them again on tester strips, but just be aware that I have worn all of these, and you probably will know that I've worn all of these because some of them have dents, some of them I've talked about in other videos. Yeah, I just want to clarify that because I have seen some commentary in a couple of Facebook groups recently where people have been talking about fragrance YouTubers, mostly in a derogatory manner, not anyone specific, just talking about YouTubers in general. And one person complained about YouTubers using test strips to smell the perfumes. I can't speak for anyone else who has a YouTube channel and who reviews or talks about perfume, but I usually won't talk about something unless I've worn it on my skin and understand how it develops on me. But sometimes on the day when you're filming, you just want a reminder. So that is why I use the test strips. It's not that, it's the first time I'm smelling these perfumes and I've only ever sprayed them on paper. All right, with that out of the way, let's jump into the first perfume because I'm not sure how long my mic is going to last today. I forgot to charge it, so it may die. All right, so the first perfume I wanted to talk about, and this is the newest one in my wardrobe. This is Mon Parfum Pearl by Maison Micallef. And ironically, this is my first Maison Micallef perfume, even though the one that I really want is Pure Extreme. The reason why I didn't buy Pure Extreme yet is because they have a Pure Extreme Nectar and I hadn't tried that. So when I ordered this, I also asked for a sample of that. They forgot to put it in, which is fine, but I haven't pulled the trigger on a bottle of Pure Extreme yet, but that is one that I have talked about previously in other videos and I just love it. It doesn't necessarily fit into this category though, so it's no loss that it's not here. So this one is actually one that I had never tried, but I bought it blindly because it was on clearance and somebody had recommended to me to try this or to get this because they thought that I would really enjoy it. I haven't spent a lot of time with it yet, but I have worn it to the gym a couple of times and I've worn it to bed a couple of times and I'm really enjoying it. Would I have bought it if I had smelled it first? Maybe not, if I'm being brutally honest. I don't dislike it by any means. I actually quite enjoy wearing it, but it's not something that's blowing my mind. How this wears to me, this has a bunch of florals in it, obviously. There's also quite a bit of heliotrope, and I think I get a lot of the heliotrope, but I get more of the heliotrope as it dries down. When I first put it on, it wears like a creamy skin lotion type perfume. It has this creaminess about it, and it does literally smell like it could be a skin lotion. But as it dries down, it becomes more floral and more powdery. And I definitely feel I get more of the heliotrope coming forward, maybe with some of the orange blossom. There's also rose, I believe. I don't know what other florals are in here. I'm just going to spritz it again on my skin. There is a fruitiness in the opening as well, which just gives it a bit more brightness, a bit more freshness, and imparts a bit of sweetness. And then this sort of skin lotiony, creamy aspect really takes over. And then again, as I said, as it dries down, it becomes much more powdery and heliotrope dominant to me. There's also musk in the base and vanilla, all the things that you would expect in this type of perfume. It is very pleasant to wear. You probably need to enjoy heliotrope and orange blossom to really enjoy it, although I don't feel like the orange blossom is super dominant. Again, it is still fairly new in my wardrobe. I'm still getting to know it, but I've really enjoyed wearing this so far. So as I said, I enjoy it more the more I wear it. The next one is one that I have talked about a lot, so it certainly won't be new to any of you, and I'm really sorry about the banging in the background. But Matt has assured me that it's not going to last very long, and I'm just going to push through and keep going. The next one is one that I have talked about a lot, and I also wear it a lot. It was probably one of my most worn perfumes last summer, and I also have the matching skin lotion. So suffice to say, this one is a staple in my wardrobe. This is Dear Woman by Amage. So this one doesn't necessarily smell so much like body lotion or skincare. It has more of a really fancy, delicate soap vibe about it. It opens quite floral and a little bit sparkly, but then it settles into kind of a powdery, floral, soapy base. And I don't know if I've ever been able to pick out any particular notes. There is obviously rose in here, and I do sort of get that delicate rosy aspect. There are definitely a bunch of other florals in here. There is iris in here, or orris in here as well. It has sort of a peachy, vintage aspect about it as well. And it does smell a little bit old school, but I wouldn't say it's full-blown vintage smelling, because it does have this sort of soapy, timeless feel about it. It's also got sort of a wateriness about it as well, particularly in the opening when you first spray it, before the powderiness and dryness of the woods and things start to come through. I don't know what's giving it that. I don't think, from memory, I don't think there's a lily note or anything listed in here, but there is sort of a wateriness about it. But I also wouldn't consider it to be aquatic or anything like that, but it's just like a dewy sort of wateriness about those florals when it first opens, before it settles. Anyway, so that is Dear Woman. Beautiful, beautiful perfume. Could not be without that one in my wardrobe. It's one of my absolute favorite perfumes. Okay, next one is one that is also quite new in my wardrobe. I've had it for a few months now. I have worn this so much throughout winter. I wouldn't even consider this to be a wintry type perfume, but I have loved wearing it. Although maybe I just loved wearing it over this winter because it was new during winter. I bought it in a sale that our local perfumery was having, and just adore it, adore it, adore it. This is Elay, or Elay, by Trudon. And you can perhaps see that it does have quite a substantial dent in it, because these bottles do come pretty much filled to the top, and this is a 100 ml bottle. So I have liberally sprayed myself with this many times over. So imagine you're on holiday, you're renting a house by the beach, and the house is mostly painted white with maybe some splashes of blue, different hues of blue here and there. You have these beautiful either French doors or credenza doors that you can push open, and you've pushed them open as far as you can, and you're just letting the air flow through the house. It's a warm sort of spring day. It probably isn't as hot as like the height of summer, but it's a warm day. You've gone to have a shower, you step out of the shower, and because you've left these doors open and you have this beautiful breeze caressing your still slightly damp skin. And as you emerge from the bathroom, you can still smell hints of the soap that linger in the bathroom, but now it's mingling with the scent of some florals that are growing in the garden and some like dried driftwood that's been used for decorative purposes in the garden. And those smells are being wafted through the house on this breeze and mingling with this scent of the beautiful sort of clean, soapy bathroom. That's the imagery that I get when I smell this perfume. So it's not purely tropical, even though when you read the note listing, it does read like a tropical perfume. But you've got this sort of dry, woodsy, clean, musky, slightly aldehydic, soapy element to it as well. And even maybe just a hint of incense or smokiness. I think this is a really special perfume. And after several weeks of wearing it and dousing myself in it and really loving it, I looked up some reviews, and all the reviews have been really lackluster. People have really not resonated with this perfume at all, but I just absolutely love it. I love it. So the florals are really light and airy and musky with a definite sort of green bent to them. But as it dries down, it becomes definitely more woody, a little bit incensey. There's definitely a resinous aspect to it, but the resins in here are not heavy. It's not super ambery or anything like that. It's very dry. And I feel like some of the body of the perfume really comes from, say, the Ylang Ylang and jasmine, which I know are in here, but it doesn't smell like a tropical suntan lotion-y type of scent at all. In fact, these florals that are typically full-bodied and really lush and quite dense in other perfumes, in here they read very transparent and light. And the other thing is that I don't feel like I can overspray this. I can literally shower myself in this and I feel like it's never too much. But that's just me. It's probably because I just really like it. But that is Elay by Trudon. Really, really like that one. The next one I only have a sample of. This is 28 Degrees by Oret Paris. This is an all-natural perfume brand that I did a house review on a couple of years ago. And there were a couple that I really liked. I haven't yet picked one up because they are quite pricey. But this one I liked, but the problem that I had with it was that it becomes a little bit too sweet for me. It wears a little bit too sweet. But interestingly, this has started to get a lot of airtime, I've noticed. And I think it's because I think Demi Rawling spoke about it a few months ago. And she described this as smelling like the Nuxe body oil, which when I heard that, I was like, oh, I never even picked that up. But then when I did the house review of this brand, I had never smelled the Nuxe body oil. The Nuxe body oil was a new discovery for me only recently last year. So even though it's been around for a really, really long time. So I had never picked up that connection, and it had been a long time since I'd smelled this, obviously because I did the house review a couple of years ago. So I went away and I dug out my little sample of it and I went, oh yeah, the opening does smell a little bit like the Nuxe body oil, but it does get very, very sweet on me in the dry down. My skin, just for whatever reason, really seems to amp up that vanillic ambery base that it has to the point where it really is too sweet. So if you're a fan of the Nuxe body oil and you've heard the comparison to this, then I would say yes, it does resemble the Nuxe body oil in the opening, but as it dries down, it becomes much, much, much sweeter. And if that is something that you wouldn't like, then just be aware that if you're going to buy this perfume, make sure you wear it on your skin and see how it settles. If you want it to smell like the Nuxe body oil all the way through, then this is probably not a good option for you. And I haven't smelled it myself, but the Nuxe perfume is probably going to be a better fit, maybe. But again, I haven't smelled that either. I really should get a sample of that because I do really love the smell of that Nuxe body oil. However, I'm about to digress a little bit here, but please bear with me. When I purchased that Micallef perfume, the Mon Parfum Pearl, they sent me a sample of Eau Feminine, which is one that I'd also been wanting to try because hell yeah, I love Orange Blossom and I love Neroli and I love Petitgrain. So I was totally keen to get a sample of that and see what it smelled like. And when I smelled that perfume for the first time, I was thinking, wow, this smells really familiar to me. And I couldn't quite pinpoint exactly where in my wardrobe was the thing that I had smelled that smelled so much like that. So I literally went through my wardrobe. I was smelling every Orange Blossom, every Neroli, just to try and pin down which one it was. And it wasn't until I dug out this sample of 28 Degrees in anticipation of doing this video that I realized that the similarity I was getting might have actually come from this perfume. I will say that between the two, I prefer the Micallef, the Eau Feminine, just because that one is more green and less sweet than this one. And the Micallef is also a little bit more sparkly and citrusy in my opinion. I think this one perhaps leans more into the Orange Blossom and the vanilla. I don't think that Eau Feminine smells like the Nuxe body oil though. And I think, you know, it's obviously, the Eau Feminine is obviously missing the sort of ambery, spicy base. But in any case, it does bear some similarity to the Nuxe body oil, as I said. But if you're like me and you like the Nuxe body oil for the fact that it isn't super sweet, then this might not be the right solution for you. And maybe just go check out the Nuxe perfume if you want the Nuxe smell. All right, next up, we have another one that I've talked about a lot before, the Champs-Élysées Eau de Toilette by Guerlain. But this is a beautiful blend of mimosa and lilac, but it's also got this sort of fruity, melony aspect going on as well. And it's not super fruity. In fact, for a long time, I didn't even realize that it was fruit that I was smelling in the top, but it's like a melon aspect that's kind of watery. But then I think the florals, particularly the mimosa for me, I think I had someone comment on a video previously where I was talking about this and saying that they or their mother or something really got more lilac from it. I get the lilac, but for me, this is much more mimosa than it is lilac. And maybe that's just because of the creaminess that I get from it. So even though you've got this watery sort of melon tone, especially in the opening, this creamy base is very prominent throughout the perfume. And to me, it does resemble a really nice, expensive skin lotion. And according to the note profile, there's, you know, almond blossom and sandalwood and benzoin and cedar in the base. I definitely get, you know, a really light woodiness, not too dry, but sort of a creamy woodiness that sort of counteracts perhaps the fruitiness that's in the opening. But it certainly doesn't feel overly woody or anything like that. It just smells very luxurious to me. And this is one that I do reach for when I want to really amp up that beautiful luxe skin product vibe after a shower or before I go to bed. So that is Champs-Élysées by Guerlain. All right, next up is probably one of the most bougiest ones on the list. This is Soleil Blanc by Tom Ford. I mean, this is spicy. It opens quite peppery, actually, but immediately you also get this blast of creamy white florals. It really is the epitome of the most expensive, luxurious, bougie suntan lotion that you can get. Like the type of sunscreen they might use in a spa, in a really bougie resort, in a really luxurious location like, I don't know, France or Italy or something. It opens, as I said, quite peppery, very spicy and nutty. There's a nuttiness in here. I get a very noticeable cardamom note, but the cardamom doesn't take over like it can in other perfumes where it's just green and spicy. It's not like that. Partly that's probably because you get this creaminess from the very get-go as well, as soon as you spray it. And I think that helps to balance the cardamom. It actually, when I first smelled this years ago, I struggled with it a little bit because the opening to me was a little bit overwhelming. And I think it's a similar thing to how some people react to the opening of Guidance, where they sort of get almost a nauseous feeling. And for me, I got that too. And I still get that sometimes with Guidance, and I sometimes get it with this as well. I think it's just a combination of that nuttiness with a bit of creaminess that can be a little bit gross sometimes. It's just too rich, perhaps. And especially with this one, because when we're talking about this perfume, I mean, even though I love this, right? I wear this in the summertime. Usually, there's a place called Noosa in the Sunshine Coast, which is a little bit north of here, which we sometimes have a little mini getaway in the summer sometimes. And whenever we go there, this is what I take to wear there. It is quite a bougie place to go, and this perfume just matches Noosa so well. It's particularly in the summertime when all the beautiful people are up there having their holidays. And we're really talking actual cream here too, not just creamy white florals. We're talking heavy, dense cream. There is coconut in here, and consequently, I think it's not coconut milk, and it's definitely not coconut water. It's like coconut cream. This thing it has a denseness to it. And it took me quite a while to come around to it. I think I had a couple of decants of it before I ultimately bought a bottle. And it wasn't until I had worn it a few times and I could just get past that opening that I really just appreciated this and loved this. And actually, one of the things that got me to love this one, I think, was somebody had very kindly gifted me a bottle of Sex and the Sea Neroli by Francesca Bianchi. And that too, I mean, that's nothing like this. They're completely different scent profiles. But that also has a denseness to it that I really kind of mentally struggled with at first, because it's, you know, the context of the perfume is summertime and being by the sea, and this perfume was so dense and kind of hard to wear at first. And then I wore it in the summer by the sea and it all just fell into place. And that was similar to this. And I think the other way that I kind of eased myself into this perfume was I first bought the body oil, and that's a lot lighter and easier to wear. Anyway, consequently, it took me a while to fall in love with this. Now that I have it, I really love it. I think I'm probably about a quarter of the way through the bottle. I don't wear it that much. And also, I try not to wear it too much because I don't see myself ever spending the money again to buy this. When I bought this, it was, I think, 2019, and I got it for a really good price. I think I did buy it brand new retail. I didn't buy it secondhand. But back then, I mean, Tom Ford perfumes were pricey back then, but they weren't as ridiculously priced as they are now. For instance, my scent of the day, just side note, is I'm wearing a sample of Santal Blush by Tom Ford. I just had this urge to wear the sample today because for some reason, randomly, I've come across some older posts and videos recently where people have been talking about Santal Blush. It seems like everyone's talking about Santal Blush at the moment, or that for some reason it's popping up in my feed. I don't know why, because I haven't been searching Tom Ford fragrances and I certainly haven't been searching for Santal Blush. But Santal Blush is like, it's nice and I do like the dry down of it, but the opening to me smells like really dry wood and body odor. And it's quite challenging to me, I'm not going to lie. And as it settles down, I do really enjoy it, but I'm not enjoying it like $400 or $500 worth enjoying it. I mean, I'm never going to pay that price for a bottle of Santal Blush. Consequently, I don't think I would pay current prices for Soleil Blanc either. But back then, yes, it was still pricey, but it didn't hurt quite so much as it would now if I wanted to repurchase this. So I'm just saying that I go easy on this perfume because I want to have it for a long time, but I don't anticipate ever buying another bottle once this one runs out. So, okay, I think I have two more here. So the next one is, I left it in its box because I love the box. This is Dolce & Gabbana Parfum, the red cap, not the purple cap. I'm also aware that there are many different versions of this in terms of it does change, or the smell of it apparently does change depending on which one you got. This is not the Italian made one. This one is made in France. So if you are a red cap aficionado, please feel free to leave some guidance in the comments below as to where the French one sits in context of all the different versions that have been around over the years. This is an aldehyde bomb to me. And consequently, I am surprised that it gets as much love as it does, because I feel like a lot of people don't like aldehydes, and yet people love to talk about this perfume. Or maybe it's just some people like to talk about this perfume. I know Tom from Ouch 110 loves this perfume. He's got like a bazillion versions of it and many, many backups. Being an aldehyde lover myself, I like this, but I don't love it. So I am going to spritz it on a card because I don't really want to wear it. It's not that I don't like it, but I kind of have to be in the mood for this one. I think I remember I used to say that I thought Dear Woman reminded me of Imperial Leather soap, but when I smell this is Imperial Leather soap to me. The opening is very aldehydic, soapy aldehydes. There's greenness in there. It's kind of sparkly. There's a bunch of citruses in there. The floral that comes forward for me, it took me ages to get it in terms of trying to pinpoint what it was that I was smelling. But I think it's carnation, because there was another perfume that I was sampling a couple of weeks ago and I can't remember the name of it now. I don't know, but similar thing. I was sort of going, what is this flower that I'm smelling? I recognize it, and then I realized I think it was carnation. Even though I've never really smelled a carnation that had a smell in real life, but over time, when you smell lots of different perfumes, you start to pick up what the different florals are when you smell similar things across different perfumes. But anyway, it is super, super soapy. So if you don't like soapy, just steer clear of this one. It is the most soapy, aldehydic, floral perfume. There is lots of rose in it as well. I think I'm getting lots of rose. There's other notes like sandalwood and tonka and stuff in the base. Don't really get any of that. It really is just aldehydes, soapy aldehydes and florals to me. It's nice. I don't As I said, I don't dislike it, but I kind of have to be in the mood for this one. Maybe because it smells so much like soap. And when I go to put on a perfume, I typically want something a little bit more than just soap, you know? Anyway, I'm I'm glad I have it. It's a really great reference for me, but I know it's widely loved. We actually have 2 more left. I thought I only had 2 left previously, but then I remembered this one. So I'll talk about this one and then we'll talk about the last one. This is Paris by Yves Saint Laurent. I shall put it around the other way. This is an eau de toilette. This is not the Mon Paris, which is a lot sweeter. That's more like a fruity floral. This is much more muskier. I kind of just picked this up one day. I'd had a sample of it. I'd worn it a few times. We were coming out of winter and I was quite enjoying the scent profile of this in terms of it was really sort of light and musky and floral. And I thought, wow, that's just what I feel like wearing right now. I went to pick up a bottle of it, and you can get these at discounters even locally, and the local chemist where I bought it only had the 100ml bottles, and I didn't really want 100 mils of it, but I knew that it was a really sort of light profile, and I thought, oh, I could totally just wear this whenever. You know, I could just spray with abandon and it wouldn't be a big deal. Yeah, well, I thought it wouldn't be a big deal, but then I came home and I really sprayed myself with it, and quite liberally, and I gave myself a raging headache. So this is a really weird perfume to me. It doesn't read how it kind of did in my mind when I was just sampling it, possibly because I have since then sprayed myself quite liberally with it and almost made myself sick. The florals in here are all very light and airy, maybe even slightly, I want to say kind of animalic almost, but not in a heavy way and not indolic necessarily. But there's just sort of something, I don't know, kind of a bit of an edge to it, which is a little bit incongruous with the original image I had in my mind of this perfume being really clean and musky and fresh, which it is. It's those things as well. So it opens kind of green and herbaceous spicy, if that makes sense. It doesn't smell like pepper. It doesn't smell like spices from a spice cupboard, but you know, when you go into a herb garden and maybe you crush some random leaves of different herbs amongst your fingers and it all starts to get this sort of spiciness about it, that's kind of what it feels like to me. That said, it's not super green. There's a bug, sorry. But that said, it's not so green that it smells like you're crushing grass under your feet or anything like that. There are lots of florals, and I think from memory this has like a really long list of florals in the note breakdown. Feel free to go look them up. I'm not going to reel off a shopping list of florals for you. They all smell kind of old school light florals. So think lily of the valley, maybe even a bit of heliotrope, violet, jasmine, a little bit of orris. So it's got this kind of airy powderiness, and it does start to resemble a little bit of talcum powder after a while. And then it has more of a deeper base than, say, something like Champs-Élysées, which also smells really vintage. Completely different scent profile to this though. But this one has, you can tell, like there's just a little bit more depth. It's not a heavy perfume. It's not dark. But it just, I don't know, it smells kind of, I guess maybe a bit mossy, a bit sort of woody. It really is about the florals and the musks, I think. Anyway, it's interesting. I thought I really loved it, and I thought I was going to wear it so much over the summer. Like I said, I think I bought this in spring last year, and I've barely worn it at all. I don't dislike it, but it's just, maybe I did myself a disservice by really showering myself in it that day that I brought it home. I don't know. I've done something to my nose that maybe means I don't agree with this so much. I love the concept of it. I love the overall vintage aspect of it. It really does smell quite vintage and kind of glamorous in a way. But because it has this sort of almost watery, creamy aspect to the florals, that are very fresh. It has kind of a bath product kind of vibe. It doesn't necessarily smell like skin lotion, and it doesn't necessarily smell like soap, but maybe bath crystals, or yeah, maybe bath crystals is kind of what it smells like. And it kind of reminds me of the smell of the bath once you've put all the stuff in it, and maybe once you've washed yourself with a little bit of soap in the bath water, and then the bathroom just has that really nice, clean, fresh smell, but it's not super soapy. It's sort of mingled in with the smell of the towels and the linens and maybe some flowers that you have in the bathroom as decoration. Yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Anyway, so that was a very long-winded explanation. Now that I'm smelling it on this strip, I really like it. Maybe I'll just use it as a spritzer for my bathroom to make my bathroom smell nice. I don't necessarily want to smell like this. That's the problem. I think I don't necessarily want to smell like this, but I like the smell of it in my space. So maybe that is the solution. I don't know. Or I could just give it away to somebody who maybe wants it more than I do. All right, the last one on this list is A Drop de Issy by Issey Miyake. I had a real moment with this probably about a year ago. Absolutely loved it. Still really, really love it. It's a gorgeous, this to me is more lilac than Champs-Élysées, but you can definitely get, in fact, I'd say these two are very close, not necessarily in scent profile, they definitely smell different. This one, Champs-Élysées, sort of smells a lot more creamy and yellow, whereas A Drop de Issy smells more fluffy and musky and doesn't have that kind of yellow vibe going on. A Drop de Issy also has a bit of an almondy aspect to it, but it's not too creamy and not too gourmand. It's sort of very dry. I'm surprised. I don't think there is orris in the note listing, but for a moment, every once in a while, I just get this little hint of what I think is orris in there, that it's like this really dry powderiness that I get from some other orris-y type perfumes. But maybe it's the woody notes that are in here that kind of give it that vibe, because things like cedar and sandalwood are pretty common amongst a lot of perfumes, including the ones that are very orris focused. And so maybe that's kind of, I'm getting maybe some similarity with that. Because the almond note in here, I think, is meant to be an almond milk note, it doesn't come off as being lactonic or gourmand, like I said, but it does have this underlying sort of creaminess to it, which could also be from the florals. It hints at skin lotion that you've put on a few hours ago and you're still every once in a while just getting little wafts of it. That's kind of what it feels like. There's lots of musk, a little bit of vanilla, but it's not sweet. It's got this very fresh solar aspect to it. It's warm without leaning too yellow in tone. It's kind of a hard one to describe, but I really like it. It's sort of watery as well in a way. There is ambroxan in here, which helps to, I think, lift it off. I think it helps with the whole projection aspect of it. And when you're smelling it up close, for me, I'm not against ambroxan. There's lots of perfumes with a bunch of ambroxan in them that I like. But for some reason, sometimes when I'm smelling this, it's like the thing that I don't want to smell. That happens sometimes with some perfumes with me, is that, on some days I just absolutely love them. And on other days, I just can't handle them. And this is one of those perfumes. I remember when I first got this, I wore it probably for a couple of weeks. And then there was like this one day when I went to wear it, went to just spritz it on. And I was like, oh, I really wish I hadn't done that. That's not what I wanted to smell today. And I think I am just like that sometimes, particularly when you've got these ambroxan-like notes that are designed to kind of bring it off the skin. Maybe there's just days when I don't want my perfume to be too much and I want it to sit a bit closer, and this is not it. But that said, it's not a super strong perfume either. So, it's very airy and light. And, I think people would detect it, but I don't think you would ever overpower somebody with this perfume. Anyway, that is Was that even a review? I don't know. But that's just my experience of wearing this perfume. That is a Drop to Issy by Issey Miyake. Kind of hit and miss for me. Whereas like Champs-Élysées, I could wear any day of the week. I just love it. And every time I smell it, I'm just like, yes, that's what I want it to smell like today. So that concludes my very hodgepodge list of luxurious skin product perfumes. I'm going to have to come up with a better name than that, I'm pretty sure. But suffice to say, I really love these sort of scent profiles. And partly that's because too, I like to wear lots of different perfumes throughout the day. I don't like just wearing one perfume. And because sometimes having something like this is a really great way to start the day. And then you can progress to sort of more interesting, bombastic or, you know, intricate perfumes as you progress throughout the day. Because at the end of the day, if they smell like skin products, then you're going to be able to wear things over the top of them at a later time without being too disruptive. Anyway, that's just how I think about it. You might approach things differently. And my dog is whining at the door. She would like to come back in after sunning herself on the deck. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know if you have any other perfumes in your wardrobe that you like that fit this sort of profile and satisfy that kind of urge to smell just like you've been to a really expensive spa or, you know, given yourself a luxurious skin treatment. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.